Hey, Edith,
Yes, Christy?
what did the janitor say when he jumped out of the closet?
I don't know.
Supplies!
That's actually funny. I'm shocked.
I can see your face. I know.
Very good. Hi, I'm Edith.
And I'm Christy. We're backyard gardeners from Colorado.
And neighbors.
And friends.
And we love sharing our gardens with you.
We're not experts. We just learned a lot about gardening from the mistakes we made along the way.
So welcome to Upside Down Tulips, the autumn episode.
A fun podcast that celebrates gardening gone wrong.
Oh my gourd, I love fall.
Fallelujah!
All right.
Upside Down Tulips.
Hello, Edith. Hello, gardeners.
Hello, gardeners and wannabe gardeners.
And people who love the fall. Do you love the fall, Edith?
Oh, I love the fall. I love it.
You know, I heard this thing that said there are people who experience autumn anxiety.
Really?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's my favorite time of year.
Me too.
I love the harvest. I love the smells. I love sweaters. I like the weather better.
The changing of the leaves.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong about it. There's not one single thing wrong with it.
Well, apparently there are people who have trouble with the seasonal changes.
Oh.
And that it can be stressful because it's shorter days and the weather's colder and school starts. And so that can cause anxiety.
Well, maybe they should garden.
That's what I think. Yes, that's right. Okay. Well, we have a lot to update people on because this is our fall episode, and we are only right now doing upside down tulips every season.
Yes.
So a lot's happened since our last episode in summer that we have to update people on.
And we have 2 new pod plays written by Ms. Christy Munter Larson herself.
Oh, they're fun. One is we're bringing back Phoebe from Phoebe's Phenomenals, and she's going to hawk her new product. And then we've got a fun takeoff on Wicked.
And we are wicked glad that we have you, our listeners.
Oh, yes. Thanks, everyone, for sticking with us. I got to find that I miss doing the podcast as much as we used to, especially this time of year, because there's so much happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Well, what's going on in your garden, Edith?
Well, you know, it's harvest. And I have to say, I have just a little story that to me shows the absolute joy of a garden in the fall. So as I've mentioned, I have a 3-year-old grandchild, and she came over 3 times to visit me over the summer. And so her name is Addie. We start at the green bean ladder. You know, I put my green beans on a ladder. We start there. She picks green beans, eats them as she goes. Then
cute.
We move to the grapes. She picks grapes, put them in her mouth. Then we go to the ground cherries. Then we go to the cherry tomatoes. Then we go to the raspberries. It's like my backyard is a supermarket, but it's free.
Nice.
And it's fresh. Oh, and I have one little, please forgive me for telling a granddaughter story, but after that, I took her to the library. And we're sitting there and, you know, reading stuff. And this lady comes over and she introduces herself. And then she says to Addie, "Are you in school?" And Addie says, "No, I'm in the library." That's good, right?
That's right, because, you know,
She's in the library.
let's take it what the reality of it is.
Exactly.
Oh, that's adorable.
So anyway, my garden, you know, it has flourished for the most part, not all, but for the most part. And what I would like to mention is what I have learned this year is that I love ground cherries. Ground cherries are an heirloom. They grow in, you know, tomatillos in the little...
Yes.
They grow inside that. They have a little paper covering.
Like a little husk.
That's the word, husk. And when they're ripe, they fall off. And they don't hit the ground, but they're protected by that husk.
Do you remember during the pandemic and I was like bartering people with plants and somebody gave me little seedlings and I gave you some?
Yes.
And mine died.
Well,
And I think yours died too, but you got a new batch, right?
but I got seeds. I did these in the jugs, you know, the winter sowing.
Winter sowing, folks, which is a outdoor method of starting seeds in the winter or in the spring.
Mm-hmm. And so I love these ground cherries now. I just love them. I didn't stake them. They are suggested I didn't scroll down enough in the directions, so I didn't get to the staking part. I thought they were a wonderful
Well,
ground.
because it says ground.
This is ground. And
Ground cherries.
What a good ground cover.
Now, can I ask, here's a stupid question. Is it like a cherry?
No.
What does it taste like?
It's a cross, but it tastes like a vanilla pineapple.
Ooh.
I know.
That sounds amazing.
It's wonderful.
Could you make like jelly or jam out of it?
Yes, you can.
Oh, that would
and
be
you
nice.
can just throw it in. I think you could throw it in with other stuff in a pie. So next year, I'm going to grow a lot of it. This is what I think. And I'm going to grow it like under the tomatoes as a ground cover.
Oh, nice.
To keep the soil from getting so hot.
Smart.
That's a good idea.
That's a
isn't it?
very good idea.
Well, that's what I'm going to do.
Well, and we should also let people know that we're also going to talk later on in this episode about other things that we've learned, right?
Yeah.
Things we've learned this summer. We're going to talk about the plants that we've killed.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about some good fall gardening tips, things that are good to be doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're also going to talk about what to do when your garden gets too hot.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still learning about that kind of thing for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a nice garden for me too this year, and I got my garden in late. I was out of town the month of May,
yeah.
so things kind of got in like the last couple of days of May, early June, and I thought I didn't know what I was going to get, but it's really interesting. I actually ended up having a really nice garden.
Good.
And here it is, right now. It's the middle of October, and we haven't had a frost yet.
No, we have not. This
and our
never
average
happens.
frost is October 7th. So we're on borrowed time right now, which is great. But I don't see a frost in the next 10 days even coming.
Not according to the weather. No, not at all.
Probably what'll happen though is we'll probably get it right on Halloween, which is sad for the trick-or-treaters to be cold. And
give some character.
That's right.
Works off all the calories from all that candy.
When I was a kid growing up in Minnesota, we wore snowmobile suits for trick-or-treating.
Wow.
That's how cold it would get on Halloween.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. But I feel like I'm still getting tomatoes. Are you still getting tomatoes?
Oh, yeah. Lots of them. Lots and lots of tomatoes.
It slowed down, though.
Do you know what we did not have this year? We didn't have hail.
That's right.
That's a first for a while. We did not have hail. We did not have a surprise. Remember 2 years ago, or whatever, we had a surprise snow?
Yes.
At the end of September, I think.
It was, Edith, it was September 8th when we got that snow.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. Well, this has been a pretty darn good year.
Yeah,
for
it was really good.
Yeah,
I
except for the heat.
Yeah, I do see things. I see things kind of slowing down. I'm gonna have to like pull in all my tomatoes eventually, but I'm gonna leave them out there for now.
Yeah, me too. Me
and I'm
too.
not. Are you covering anything? I'm not covering.
Nope, not covering anything. I took out my cucumbers.
Oh, I should do that.
I took out my green beans.
Yeah, I should do that too.
Yeah, but the tomatoes are going like gangbusters.
And are you still getting zucchini?
Yes, I'm getting zucchini and yellow squash.
I got a lot of that powdery mildew on my cucumbers, my zucchini, and on my pumpkins. Huh. And in the beginning of the summer, I was doing really great about spraying some like baking soda and water, and neem oil on it. And then when it got too hot, I just wasn't. I guess I just had to get out there every day because now that powdery mildew is just taken over. I should pull it all. And also, friends, if you do have that powdery mildew, don't put it in the compost bin.
No.
I have to put it all straight in the garbage.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that mildew will just make a home in the compost. And when you spread compost, then you're just spreading that powdery mildew everywhere.
Do you know what I noticed? I know for whatever reason, I didn't have any powdery mildew. I don't even know why. But what I had, like on my kale, the ones that I planted first, so covered in aphids that it was not even edible.
What kind of aphids? Were they the red ones or the white ones?
The white ones.
Oh, yeah.
And then I have a kale plant that came up late. Not an egg on them. Not an aphid on them.
Maybe they moved.
I think it's because the nights got cooler.
Oh.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's something that I'm going to do next year. I'm not going to plant early kale. That's for sure.
Oh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And plant it later because it can handle the heat, can't it?
It seems to be able to handle anything. Okay. But, when it gets covered with aphids, it's yuck.
Isn't that so weird? And like we live 2 blocks from each other.
Yeah.
I was also going to ask you, did you have any problem with Japanese beetles this year?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like a lot or like your average amount of Japanese beetles?
Like a little bit less.
Okay.
You know what? A little bit less. And I think it's because I go out there 2-3 times a day for years now and kill them. What about you?
I think I had less this
Uh-huh.
year than I've had in the past. Where they like to go is they like to go on my morning glories by the vegetable garden.
Uh-huh.
And then I can also see them. They would go like inside the roses. But usually
Ooh.
my roses are all done by the time the Japanese beetles, my roses are all usually done by the end of June and Japanese beetles come out in July.
Yeah.
But I think I've noticed that. And I was spraying neem oil.
Mm-hmm.
And then I laid down grub gone
Okay.
in the spring and the fall.
I remember you did that last year or the year before too.
And I should lay it down right now because then it'll prevent any grubs from coming up. And it's an organic way of destroying the grubs that it's certified for organic farming.
So that's good because then it won't be as many. Okay.
Yeah. Because soon, it's interesting about this, like having this long fall. We're getting close to our Persphone period, which is when we're going to have less than 10 hours of sunlight a day. And that across the globe just means, folks, that things just don't grow unless you get more than 10 hours of sunlight. Our traditional Persphone period is around November 15th to January 27th. If you want to find out when yours is, you can go to the United States Naval Observatory. But I'll put a link in the show notes if people want to go and find out when their Persphone period is. It's named after Persephone because Persephone is the daughter of Demeter, the Greek goddess of the harvest. And it's important for us to know that when these dates are so that we can kind of plan our things out. But even when climate change happens, that's not going to affect the Persphone period because we're still
Right.
we still have the same movement around the sun.
Exactly.
Unless we get a second moon.
Yeah. Right.
But we have a second moon now up there.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I'm out of the moon loop apparently.
Okay. All right. I think I have big plans this weekend to get out, and I'm going to harvest a lot of my herbs. I've been pokey on harvesting the herbs. So I think I'm going to go out there and
I got to do that too. My herbs were so good this year.
yeah. I have a lot of tarragon. I have dill, and I also feel like my basil's really slowed down. So I think I just might pull my basil. So let me know if you want some.
Are you going to try to grow it in the house?
I do have some actually in. I store my basil out on the kitchen counter. So folks, don't put your basil in the refrigerator. Leave it out on the counter and treat it like a flower. And I've noticed that some of the basil has taken root.
Yeah. And when the roots get big enough, you can put it in soil. And
have you done that before?
I have.
And does it work?
We're so dry that it works for a while.
Okay.
But it won't take you the whole winter.
But you must need a super sunny window.
Yeah, you do. That's true.
Okay.
That's true. Maybe that's one of the problems.
So I'll have to
it not
figure out.
lasting. Yeah.
I do have one of those purple lights that you can put on, so maybe I might try that. Because I hate buying basil at the grocery store. Little part of me just dies when I have to do that.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
Like buying
too.
zucchini. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
And this was the first year in 2 years I've had zucchini. Because for
That's
2 years
right.
my zucchini
I didn't have any last year either.
Yeah. And I didn't have much this year actually. I had some, but I didn't have like I
It
wasn't putting it
crazy.
on people's porches.
So strange.
Yeah.
Again, I have to blame the heat because maybe it makes the insects tired and they don't pollinate as much. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I had a ton of bees. Yeah, I had a lot. So okay. What's also going so well for me in my garden this year are zinnias. My zinnias and my marigolds are just doing fantastic.
Good.
So that's what's nice, not to have that frost.
Yeah, because they still looks really pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks really good. Okay, well, what should people do, Edith, if we're talking about stuff and they don't understand what the heck we're talking about?
What should they do if they don't know what we're talking about?
Yeah, perhaps they should go to upsidedowntulips.com and they can visit the always informative and sometimes funny Upside Down Dictionary for words and terms that you don't understand. We have pictures on Facebook. We have pictures on Instagram. We encourage you to check that out and see if you want to see pictures of our gardens. And if you ever want to become a patron, a part of Upside Down Tulips, we hope you consider joining the garden party and throwing a couple bucks our way each month so that we can pay for the expenses of doing this podcast, like our website and the expenses to get a host.
And Christy, here comes a pod play.
Yay! So this is
Phoebe's neighborly Japanese beetle trap.
Yeah.
Your garden has never looked more beautiful. Your roses are in full bloom. Your grapevines are lush and green. Your morning glories are glorious. But then, one summer day...
Oh my gourd! My blooming roses! My lush green grapevine! My glorious morning glories!
In the world of garden pests, few are as horrifying as the Japanese beetle. This insidious creature, with its shimmering emerald green and coppery wings, strike fear into the hearts of gardeners far and wide. It seems to revel in the destruction it wrought upon innocent plants, turning once thriving landscapes into desolate wastelands. Hi, I'm Phoebe, the celebrity stylist and influencer who brought you Phoebe's Phenomenales, Phoebe's Fashion, Phoebe's Choice Moist Soil, and Phoebe's Gardener's Hibernation Spa Treatment. I always have my manicured finger on the latest trends and hottest fads. Japanese beetles may be small, but they pack a punch when it comes to wreaking havoc on your beloved plants. Now you can take control of those little buggers with my brand new Japanese beetle trap. Introducing Phoebe's Neighborly Japanese Beetle Trap.
But I've heard those traps don't work.
Oh, mine does. Just type in your address, and our computer will identify your naivest neighbor outside of 200 yards. Phoebe's Neighborly Japanese Beetle Trap will arrive at your naive neighbor's doorstep, anonymously under special cover. And let nature take its course.
Why, what is this? What a pretty package. Thanks for being such a good neighbor. Aw. Well, I am a pretty good neighbor. A Japanese beetle trap? Didn't I once hear those don't work? Ooh. But this one is made by Phoebe and is designed like a Japanese geisha house. These beetles are going out in style. Yay! It's working! Look at the thousands of Japanese beetles coming to my trap. Wait. No. Go in the trap. Don't stop. For the love of Casa Bonita, not my roses.
Phoebe's Neighborly Japanese Beetle Trap. For your neighbor.
Why, what is this? What a pretty package. Thanks for being such a good Hey!
So get your Phoebe's Neighborly Japanese Beetle Trap for your neighbor today. Phoebe's Neighborly Japanese Beetle Trap is not responsible for damage incurred from any vengeful neighbors.
Well, every garden season brings us a lot of lessons, and this year, it sure did, didn't it, Edith?
Well, here's a fun lesson. Did you know that leftover wine and beer can really kickstart a compost pile into moving? Into really decomposing?
Oh, yes. Not just
not
like
moving, not walking
yeah.
away in a drunken way. No.
Okay.
No, Christy. No, it gets things going because of the yeast.
I've heard that before, too. I've heard like you could pour like a can of Coca-Cola is good
Oh,
to put in your...
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. But I've heard beer before, too.
Coca-Cola's got nothing but chemicals in it.
Yeah,
That's so weird.
Maybe it's the sugar. I don't know.
Maybe
But
it's
I'll tell
the
you
sugar.
one thing.
What?
Leftover wine, I don't know what that is.
Good point, Christy.
Yeah. Have you done that before?
You know, every once in a while, if I have a little leftover, I do just dump it into, but
That's
I
clever.
don't make a big deal out of it,
Right.
But if your compost is not doing anything, you might think about trying that.
That is a good idea. See, my thing is that I plant now my pumpkins in my compost pile. So I can't even get back there because the vines are just so huge.
Of course, that's right. But you
So-
still use the compost pile, right? You
Yes,
still
because
put
I have
stuff on it?
3. I have one that's starting, one that's in
That's
the middle
right.
process, and the one that's completely mostly done. Then
Yeah.
I just figure if pumpkins one year started growing there, I thought, well, maybe that's why they like it, and that's why I have room because pumpkins take up so much room.
Well, for heaven's sakes, there's no better soil when you think about
It's
it.
very happy,
Yeah, so
and I'm
happy.
getting 4 pumpkins this year.
Nice. Do you know what I learned this summer, Christy? You know how I always say I can't grow onions from seed and I can't grow carrots very well?
Uh-huh.
Well, it's because they don't remain viable for very long. I never knew that.
Oh.
Listen to this. Crops like carrots, parsnips, onions, and leeks are notoriously short-lived and lose viability in 1 to 2 years.
So if you're hanging on to old onion and carrot seeds,
My carrot seeds were like from 2002.
you got to break open the bank and get yourself $1.89.
No longer exists, by the way. But yeah, you're right. For to keep them longer, a little bit longer, carrots, parsnips, etc., put them in the freezer.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, put them in the freezer.
Well, isn't that true? Like, what's that big, huge seed bank that's in Scandinavia where they're storing all the seeds of the world?
Right.
That must be a cold place too.
That's right. It's a freezer.
That's a good idea because I store my seeds in the garage,
I do too.
which is like notoriously either too hot or too cold.
Well, yeah.
I probably shouldn't store them out there in the summer.
Well, I do the same.
I'm going to have a great carrot crop this year, and that's because I bought new seed.
Yeah, I already bought new seeds for next year.
I did that little finger
Oh,
carrots.
I like the little fingers. Yeah, yeah.
And can I tell you a lesson I learned about onions?
What?
So I planted scallions, green onions.
Yeah.
And then for the first time, I also planted regular onions. And this is pretty fresh seed. I think you gave me the onion seed.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't label which was which.
Oh, no.
And they look the same. The scallions and the onions. Maybe you can come out and look at it for me. I don't know. I want to pull the scallions, but I don't want to pull the onions. But they look exactly the same.
Wow. Interesting.
So that's an important lesson, folks. Get new onion seeds and label them.
Mm. Well, Christy, here's something else that I have learned is that chard is one of the best possible vegetables that you can grow. It grows in the heat. It flourishes when in the fall. I got this stuff called forever spinach. And spinach bolts so fast in this heat.
I didn't get one leaf of my spinach this year because I blinked and
Christy,
it bolted.
Listen, there is a chard called forever spinach that is really good.
But it's not like a Swiss chard. It is a spinach?
It's a chard.
Oh, okay.
It's a Swiss chard called forever spinach.
Oh, okay.
Because it tastes just like spinach.
Oh,
the leaves are gigantic.
Oh, Edith is gesturing like 2 feet.
Yeah, well, okay, that's too much. Like 1 foot. Like a foot,
I'm 5 feet tall. I'm not a good judge of
that's
measurement.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you and guys, with their inches. So, here's another thing that I learned and thought about really carefully, which is that if you have a vegetable that goes quickly, it hates the heat, lettuce, for example, I'm going to plant that under my peach tree because in the beginning, the tree's not leafed out. It'll get all the sun it needs when it's cool. By the time it gets hot, it's in the shade.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that a good idea?
This past year, I planted underneath my sunflowers. I love that Paris romaine.
Oh, that's so good.
And so that's where I planted my greens was underneath that. And of course, everything really still bolted because partially it was my fault for not pinching back and things like that. But
even when you pinch back in this heat, it's going to a couple more days and it's gone anyway, really. My tomatoes got all scorched. My heirloom black crim, they just didn't do a good job at all. I got to plant like you. I'm going to have to plant some hybrid next year that are bred for the heat. I think that'll really help.
Yeah, and folks, like an heirloom is just going to be an older seed, but a hybrid is also an organic tomato plant, but it's just been bred in order to take out the best features of tomatoes so they can fight off disease more. It's still an organic.
It is
wonderful tomato.
I had a aroma that had a really, really bad blossom end rot. And I had a bottle of really old calcium tablets. So I dissolved the calcium tablets in water, gave it to the Roma, and Christy, it completely took care of the problem.
Oh, wow.
It completely...
Now, was this a calcium tablet, like for
Like a vitamin that you take.
get out. So it wasn't like this is
No.
for the garden, but it was like
Costco shopping,
Yeah.
you get like 1,000.
Sure.
You can never use that many.
Yeah.
So I just dissolved a whole bunch of them.
That's clever.
You do
For
it,
blossom
it
end rot.
worked. It totally worked.
And blossom end rot is that in the bottom of your tomato, and it's very common among Roma tomatoes. Well, they'll get that little black splotch at
Yep.
the back, and if you have that, it's not bad. You can just cut that off.
But then you're cutting off like a third
Yeah,
of the
you're
tomato,
right, which is not
you know?
great. And tomatoes will get that because they're getting inconsistent watering, and so if you get a real heavy rain,
Mhm.
and then that could wash out all the calcium in the plant, so the plant puts its energy into the leaves and not the fruit. And that's why it
Yeah.
turns black at the bottom. So you've invented something.
Well, yeah,
Maybe you could repackage it.
maybe I could. Old calcium. I'm glad I never throw anything away, Everything comes in
Right.
handy. It
That's
really,
right.
really does.
That's right.
So what else did you learn this summer?
One of the things that I learned was that it's better late than never. I put my garden in late,
Mm-hmm.
and I think in an earlier version of me, an earlier gardener, would have just said, screw it, I'm not going to garden in this year. But I did it anyways, and things caught up.
So good.
It's very surprising to me. Our friend Melanie down the street gave me a very, very tiny Granny Cantrell tomato plant,
Uh-huh.
and it caught up with everything.
They do catch up. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. And so I learned a lot about timing.
Mhm.
Like, even though it's June and, we're zone 5B, some people say we're zone 6.
Yeah, they say we moved to 6 now.
It's not too late to plant in June. I
Mhm.
planted in July. Just see who knows what's going to happen.
Who knows when the first frost is going to be now? So trust
Right.
just plant.
Yeah,
See what
just
happens.
plant.
Just plant.
And I also planted some things earlier than I normally do.
Yeah.
And the big thing I planted early was zinnias. Because I've always been told with zinnias that you should really wait until you're a good 2 to 3 weeks after your last frost. So that would be late May, early June. And that's when always I would plant zinnia seeds. Either I would direct sow them or I would winter sow them in milk jugs, even still in May. And you know when I did them this year? I did them in the middle of April.
Wow.
And what happened is that I got blooms in 4th of July
Nice.
and then instead of August.
Nice.
So that was a great lesson. Now the thing is that can I remember in April to plant zinnia seeds?
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like, folks, you can never have too many zinnias.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
Just plant and plant and plant, and you can save those seeds. And even though the seeds for a zinnia will be, because it's a hybrid plant, and so you're not going to get a true seed, but you could still save your zinnia seeds, and you'll get you won't get maybe not as deep a color, or maybe as big a flower.
I
but you'll
have
still
to
get beautiful
say,
flowers.
I tried, and not one single zinnia came up. Not one.
Oh.
Year 2. The first year, it reseeded itself. The second year, I think, because it was one generation away,
Uh-huh.
I didn't get one single. I went out and I bought zinnia seeds for next year.
I always buy a lot, and I say, but when I do save them, I really oversow a lot.
Yeah,
I probably do like 5 times more.
that's
than
a
I
good
normally would.
idea. Well, what about mistakes? If you're done with learning?
With learning a little bit, yeah, I actually have a couple fun mistakes I can share. I always like to buy eggplant,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to get a globe. I like to get
You're
a
talking about
Japanese-
seedlings, right?
Yes,
Seedlings?
seedling
Mhm.
plants. And for some reason, though, when I was at the nursery, I grabbed the wrong kind. Have you ever done that? Or
Oh, yeah.
maybe it was mislabeled
A
at
lot
the
of times
nursery?
I have personally mislabeled things when I worked at a greenhouse. So yeah, I have angry customers.
Oh no!
What is this? Yeah.
Well, I accidentally, instead of planting Japanese eggplant purple, I planted white eggplant.
Ooh, I planted that. That stuff is good though.
It was good,
It's
and I
really
didn't
good.
know. Maybe it was a happy accident because apparently it's less bitter than regular eggplant
Uh-huh.
is. And I just harvested it all, and I made an eggplant bolognese out of it.
Nice.
So-
Yum.
Yeah. And then I can also I killed some stuff this year.
Oh dear. You want to talk about it, or are you in the grieving period?
I don't know. Well, I already shared with everybody I killed my rosemary, but I got a new rosemary, so we'll see how that works. You got a new rosemary too, right?
I did. I always get a new one because I kill it every year.
Well, here's a weird thing that I killed. So I had cabbage, and I had 6 cabbage heads. And one day I went out there, and they were all the same size and everything, and one just keeled over.
Who knows?
Like could an animal have like disturbed it and its root structure had
I don't
gotten?
know.
But
Every once in a while, a plant just won't make it.
they were all doing well. They're all next to each other. They're all on the drip line.
Yeah.
And then one just killed. And I could just tell like it, you know, the cabbage, the leaves, you know how in the heat of the day, a cabbage can wilt a little bit, but then it'll bounce back up again. Well, this did not bounce back. Maybe it was the heat then.
I don't know. My biggest mistake was not pruning my peach tree last winter. I had probably half of it break off from the weight of peaches.
You had a big peach year.
You're supposed, because the year before I didn't have any. Well, you're supposed to take off, if you have a peach tree, please listen to this, almost a third of the tree when it's dormant in the winter. Just cut branches off, because I hope I have peaches next year. I hope I haven't killed the tree entirely.
Okay. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Right? Did you put anything on it to cover the wound of your peach tree?
I did not do that. I
have some stuff. When we're done with this, let me go get you. I have some like tree wound thing.
Okay.
And so that it's not, so disease won't get into your tree.
That's good. That's very good. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so look at this. Lots of lessons learned,
Mm-hmm.
mistakes that happened, happy accidents.
And what happens? The garden is going to forgive us.
Oh, thank goodness.
Please, peach tree, please forgive me. God.
I tell you, I'm grateful because I got a lot of your peaches this year.
Oh my! I was giving them to random strangers who were building houses.
Yeah, everybody had a good peach year.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were giving them away. That is very, very true. All right. So when we come back, what are we talking about? We're going to talk about fall cleanup tips, and we're going to talk about tips to do for next year. My dear Alfie, I think you've gone positively rotten. Look at this messy garden. It's as if a tornado hit Munchkinland's finest florals and left nothing but weeds.
Just tending to my plants, Glinda, trying to bring them to life with a little green magic.
Looks like your garden needs a good witch. You've let your garden go completely wild, darling. It's practically a jungle out here.
Hey, a little chaos is natural. It's wicked good for the plants to grow free. I'm letting them live their best lives.
Oh, no, dear. These plants are just defying logic. Look at those poor tomatoes. They're as wrinkled as an old witch's spell book. And your Scotch broom? I wouldn't touch with a broomstick.
Oh, come on, Glinda. My garden is full of life.
Elfie, your garden might have potential, but it needs some serious grooming. Every gardener knows that pruning is like spell work. It's an art. It's about getting to the root of things, darling.
Well, I guess you could say I'm not that girl. I don't believe in just trimming away. My plants need room to flourish. The future of gardening isn't tidy little rows of petunias. It's a lush, wild, magical kingdom.
Elfie, darling, the only thing magical about this garden is how fast it's going to become the haunted forest. These dandelions are practically declaring themselves king.
I've got bigger dreams. What's a few weeds when you're building something grand?
Elfie, you mustn't let your garden run amok. Look at my garden. Every tulip in line like little soldiers.
Yeah, but are they happy? I bet your tulips don't even know what it's like to feel the wind in their petals. My plants are wild and free, Glinda. They're living the life of a true wicked gardener. No rules, just roots.
Oh, you're hopeless. Soon your garden will turn on you, Elfie. There'll be no yellow brick road to save you when your marigolds stage a revolt. I'm warning you, gardening is not about chaos. It's about balance, like a perfectly trimmed hedge.
Oh, balance, schmalance. I'm going to popularize my way of gardening. Just you wait. People will be lining up to get a piece of my over-the-rain-grow method. We don't need your stuffy old rules anymore. Nature is the new magic. You'll see.
Well, when your garden starts to resemble the Wicked Witch's castle, don't say I didn't warn you. Remember, Elfie, just because you can talk to the plants doesn't mean they'll always listen.
Oh, but Glinda, dear, that's where you're wrong. My garden listens to me. Just wait until they sing.
Goodness, Elfie! What have you been feeding them? Cow manure from Oz? You better not start brewing any potions.
Oh, Glinda, don't be so dramatic. A little magic never hurt a garden. After all, we're all a little wicked at heart.
Okay, so fall garden cleanup is crucial to prepare your garden for the next growing season and to help sure that your plants are healthy. And we've got some tips that we've learned along the way that can be helpful for you. And maybe you're doing this right now. Maybe people are doing a little bit of fall cleanup while they're listening to us.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say? But I would say the number one tip is to remove some dead and dying plants, but not all of it.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Not all of it. Leave some stuff to feed the wildlife, the birds, like for example, coneflower, seed heads, and you know what I found out too is, for example, do you have any goldenrod?
Yes.
Did you know? I didn't even know this, that it's a really important source of nectar for pollinators.
Oh, that makes sense. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and so don't cut that back.
Yeah, I have mine. Right, mine. I plant next to. It's very nice next to Russian sage. So
I
you
bet
have
it
that
is.
bluish purple and that beautiful yellow next to each other.
Yeah,
That looks really good.
yeah.
Yeah, I will trim of course I'll take out the vegetable garden. I'll clean that up before the snow happens. And I'll clean out annuals. But for perennials, I usually leave them, or I might I usually leave them. I usually leave my perennials. Or if it's a certain part of area, I'd even cut them half off. But if you cut a perennial to the ground, you're endangering it from its strength as it's growing it roots in the winter.
Yeah.
And it's more susceptible for frost and damage.
And little insects and stuff hide in there.
Yeah,
they
that's
live
right.
in there. I
Little critters.
actually have stopped taking out all of my vegetables. I leave like the big heavy roots, like with
that's right.
broccoli and stuff. I
Yeah.
leave that because I think things in the soil can eat that.
Oh, interesting.
That's what I think.
You know, I leave my if I can't get the sunflower out, I just leave the stalks.
Oh, geez, sunflowers.
and then
impossible.
it's usually a little
yeah.
easier in the spring
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah, right now it's
So-
dry and hard and doesn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah. Also, this is a great time to tend to your compost pile,
Yeah.
to feed it, to put yard waste in it, to give it a good turn
Make
before
sure
the
you
winter.
make sure you put leaves in it, or you can also make leaf mold.
Oh yes, tell people about leaf mold.
Leaf mold is so great. You put the leaves that you collect in a plastic bag, in a big bag, and then you wet them. And then you cover it up. I put them in an old garbage can, and then I leave them sit for the whole winter. Sometimes I forget about them, and I'll leave them sit for like a year. After that, you have the most beautiful soil. They go straight to soil. It's beautiful.
That's incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and some people, will rake up everything too. If you're going to put leaves in your compost pile, just make sure you chop them up a little bit. That's always a good idea. So they're, or don't rake up everything.
Yeah, don't rake up everything.
But if don't, one of the dangers is that if you leave everything there, then the leaves could get matted, and that could hurt some of the plants that they're around. Rake up some of it and leave the rest to be a natural mulch and protection.
Like in the woods. Nobody's raking the woods.
Yeah, right.
Woods are doing fine.
And it makes its own leaf mold. But if you have plants that you care about, if there's a lot of heavy leaves on plants, that could actually hurt the plant. But it's also a great time to mulch too. When in doubt, mulch it.
Oh, that will really help that will help so many things. If you mulch something, really mulch it well, it will overwinter. The possibility of it overwintering, like spinach. Also, you can, if you mulch carrots, for example, especially those little fingers that don't go way down.
Yeah.
Well, you can pull them, move the mulch away and pull them out for months.
Oh, so true.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one year we forgot to harvest carrots?
Mhm.
And you had the ingenious idea of pouring warm water on them?
Yes, melting the soil.
I did that too. That worked. They weren't the best carrots. They were not happy.
Well, they get old down there.
They were good for they were good. They were good. They were
They're
good
for soup and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Also a great time to clean up your garden tools.
Mhm.
And just do a little cleanup of your garden area. I'm going to do that this weekend. It looks like a bomb exploded in my garden area in the garage, and I'm going to just like organize things, clean things up, so that when I have that really nice day in the spring when I want to go out there,
Yeah.
it'll all be ready for me.
See, I've never done that in my life. So that's what made it's so funny about your
You don't
pod
clean your
play.
tools?
No, I don't. I am the person. I am Elfie.
Yes, that's
You
why I
are
wrote it.
Glinda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember once we said that you're a little bit Mother Jones and I'm a little bit Martha Stewart.
Yes. And I said, no, I'm a lot Mother Jones and you're a lot Martha Stewart. Yeah. Maybe I'll clean them off this year. I don't know. But yeah, I've just not found it necessary.
Do you ever like sharpen or?
No, I don't do anything.
Okay.
Don't do any of
Right.
that stuff.
Well, you know what? I think that's good for people to hear, though. Don't you think, Edith? Because
I
it's
do.
like, good is not the enemy of perfect.
Exactly.
And
That's the mantra for my entire life. That's who I
great.
am.
Okay, good. It's also a good time of year to think about protecting vulnerable plants. For example, your rosemary. So, Edith,
Yeah.
this would be if soon.
You got to bring it in. I'm not leaving
You're bringing
it out.
it in?
I'm not leaving it out there. It has
Oh.
died every single year that I left it out there.
Is it-
Every time.
You bring it in, and how's it do?
Not good. But I figure it has a better chance.
Okay. Well,
No.
I had a rosemary that lived 4 years, and I think that's pretty good.
And you left it outside.
I leave it outside, and what I do is I trim it back,
Yeah.
which is great. You just bring the rosemary
Oh, you
outside.
trim it back.
Trim it back, and then mulch the crap out of it, like really.
Like all over the plant, on the
Yes.
top, everywhere.
And then the year that it died is usually what I do is that if it gets below, because we use a brand of rosemary called ARP, ARP.
I think that's what I have.
And which is good for low temperatures, but I think it's good to like 15 degrees. So if and it happens every now and then in our neck of the woods, if it dips down there, then I take like a Home Depot bucket and I wrap the plant in some frost cloth,
right, cloth.
and I put a bucket over it.
Okay.
And then last year, the reason why I had to buy a new one is because that happened remember it happened in January?
Yeah.
We got that deep freeze.
Yeah.
And I was very busy and I didn't cover it and I killed my rosemary.
I swear to God, I'm going to do that this year. I'm going to be perfect with my rosemary. I'm doing exactly what you
Because then
just
it gets
said.
bigger. It's fine if you buy a plant.
It's beautiful. Mine is beautiful. It's so big. I shouldn't let it die. I should do everything, and I will.
Yeah.
I will cut it back using the rosemary,
like-
drying the rosemary.
like by a third, I think.
Yeah, I
Just
think
cut
I will
it back
do
by
it.
a third.
Yeah,
And then we'll have to make a pact, Edith.
yeah. Make a pact.
Like if it dips below 20,
Yes.
like text each other saying
Check the alert.
yes, right.
Weather alert. It's a red alert day.
It's a rosemary alert.
It's a rosemary alert day.
And our phones will buzz.
Also, I'm bringing in my geraniums.
Yes,
Gonna
I got to do
cut
that
them
too.
back.
Cut them way back.
Yeah, and
I don't want to bring them in yet. They're so beautiful.
you know what? We don't have to. We
I'm
don't
gonna
have
wait.
to.
I'm going to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, me too. Unless it really gets cold, which it doesn't seem to be
Yeah.
doing. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're really pretty, and I don't want to buy new ones next year.
And that's a lesson I learned also with geraniums is that they were all up in my attic and I had a little timer, a tickler in my calendar to water them once a month.
Uh-huh.
And then when I was ready to bring them outside, I cut them way back.
You cut them way back after you let them sit in the attic.
Yeah, so because they got all leggy. They were still alive.
But I mean, I heard you're supposed to cut them before.
I did that too. I did it
okay.
both. I
You did
trimmed
both.
them.
Okay, I got it.
When I moved them in, I trimmed them. I trimmed them way back, and then I put them underneath my patio table for a week. So because mine would always get
You were
scorched.
acclimating them
Yeah.
to the outside.
Yeah.
Clever.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
clever, Ms.
Good,
Montour
good.
Larson.
Yeah,
Very
and anything
clever.
else you think that you need to bring in or cover, it is a great time to do it and to protect those vulnerable plants either by bringing them in
Mhm.
or giving them an extra care.
Mhm.
Don't prune your roses now, friends.
Don't prune your roses now.
Mm-mm.
You could, if you wanted, pretty soon, you could plant tulips.
Yes.
Supposed to plant them in the fall.
Last year I planted about 100 bulbs. It was great.
What
just don't-
temperature do you wait
You
for?
know, I usually, it's funny. I usually do it in October.
Okay.
I really should. But here's the thing though, is that I had a whole new bed. So I planted all these tulips and now I don't remember where they go. Like can somebody tell us what to do? Like, how can I know? Like, otherwise I'm just going to dig up my other tulips. Like, I would love to.
I don't know.
Or somebody could invent something that you could like have some infrared thing that you could see the tulip bulbs.
Or like
Okay.
or like take a piece of paper
Uh-huh.
and make a drawing of your yard and have planted tulips here on it. You could do that.
That's true. Right. Maybe my handsome and handy husband would do that for me.
I'm sure he could.
Okay, good. And now, as some people also, when it comes to fall cleanup, they'll also plant a cover crop. I don't do it.
I don't do it.
I don't have the time for it. But also, it's a good time to, if you have perennials, to divide and replant perennials.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great time to do
Sure
that.
is. Mm-hmm. It is. Never do it. Never have done it. We'll never do it. Nope.
Especially if it's a spring, if it's
Like an iris.
Yes,
I get the most beautiful iris.
Well, iris is good to do in July. July and August, because you want the iris to get established.
It's too late
before the
now.
winter happens. But at any rate, okay, so that's fall cleanup.
I forgot to tell you, I killed one of my lilacs, and I have no idea why.
Oh,
It just died. It just dropped its leaves. It's standing there like a stick, like a many-pronged stick next to the most beautiful. So the other lilac, almost to be laughing at it, got all huge and beautiful. It just died. Christy, sometimes
sorry.
this just happens.
well, that was my forsythia.
That's
Also
right.
because I didn't protect it when it was because of that really bitter snap.
Mhm.
I should have just thrown a blanket over it or something
Yeah.
like that. And I don't have the heart to rip it out. So it's sitting next to my lilac bush, which is laughing at it.
Well, I did nothing wrong. I did nothing
Yeah.
wrong. Maybe
Mystery.
it was so dry, so, and I hardly ever water in that section.
Yeah. And if it gets above 40 degrees where you live during the winter,
Yeah.
you should water.
Oh,
in Colorado,
it
we
died
should.
in the summer. It died in the summer, Christy.
Oh.
And I think maybe the big tree sucked up all the water. I think that's possible.
that could be.
Mm-hmm. So
That's the way it is. The big guy always
wins.
wins.
Bully pulpit. Christy,
Yes.
my clock is ticking.
Oh, yes.
My clock. I have a clock on my arm, and
I think they call that a wrist clock.
yeah, the wrist clock on my arm.
An arm clock.
Do you know what time it is, Christy?
I don't, because I do not have an arm with a clock on it.
Well, let me look. Look here. It's mailbag time.
Ring, ring.
Okay. Our letter today is from Trina from Wheat Ridge.
Which is where we're from.
Yay.
That's
Hi,
weird.
Trina. Hi, neighbor.
Hi, neighbor.
She says, I have sweetgrass growing outside in a big pot. Should I bring it indoors for the winter? Signed, Trina, a woman of very few words, which I love.
To the point, right?
Yes.
Well, that's apropos, right? Because we're talking about what to do in the fall here. Well, sweetgrass, for folks who don't know, is also known as buffalo grass. It is an herb that is native to North America. It's an ornamental grass. So I know, Edith, you're not a big fan of ornamental grasses.
I've come around on that.
Oh,
I have
very
come
nice.
around.
So you have appreciation
I do.
for ornamental grasses.
I do.
Okay. Well, it's called sweetgrass because it's known for its aroma. It smells very great. It has a nice, pretty little, like a bloom on the ornamental grass, and it blooms for a long time from March all the way to May. And, which is earlier than a lot of other grasses are. And after the bloom, it forms small little spikelets of bronze seed heads that are very pretty
Ooh.
and move in the wind. And it's been known for centuries to be for part of indigenous cultures in both Canada and the United States for ceremonial purposes. And it's considered a sacred herb.
Oh.
And people will braid it too.
Oh, how
And
pretty.
The sweetgrass braid is significant to indigenous cultures. So, and you can grow ornamental grasses in pots, just like Trina has. Whether or not to bring it in, though, it's a tough call, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Perennials, because this is ornamental grasses are perennials.
Mm-hmm.
They like to be in the earth. They like the freeze and the thaw that can happen when they're in the earth. And so if you leave an ornamental grass in a pot outside, you're in danger of a couple of things. One is that, well, one, your pot could crack if it freezes.
Right.
And also, when it rains, if the pot is frozen and there's snow or rain on it, then the water just goes to the first couple inches. And that means it can rot things for any kind of perennial that's in a pot that's put outside. So, yes, it's true. You could bring it in, but then you have to make sure you give it the light that it needs.
Right. And it misses that thaw and freezing that it likes so much.
And a lot happens underground. So one thing you could do, Trina, that I've heard people will do this if you want to keep it outside in the pot, is you could place it in a second pot that's bigger. So the larger part kind of creates like a silo around it. So you could do that. You could just plant it if you wanted to. Like just dig a hole someplace and throw it in the ground and then dig it back up again and put it in a pot in the spring.
Or you could bury the container in the ground.
Yes, you could.
You could do that too.
You could bury the whole thing in the ground. That's also true. A lot of people will grow sweetgrass in a pot because it has rhizomes and it'll spread and it can really take over. So if you want to contain it, I can see why Trina puts it in a pot. So we are interested in your experiment. If you want to try a couple of these, write back to us, Trina, and let us know what you did and let us know how it turned out.
Yeah.
And if anybody else has a burning question, fashion tips for us, I don't know, small bills, you can write to us. We love it at upsidedowntulips@gmail.com or at upsidedowntulips.com. You know, friends, the world is a chaotic place. The future is so uncertain. What is going to get us out of bed every day and face a cold, cruel world and enjoy our gardens? If only there was some inspiration. Oh, but lo, Edith, I see you.
Hi. Not only do I have inspiration, I have an inspiring thought written by none other than Bill Watterson, who wrote Calvin and Hobbes.
Nice.
Can you believe it?
I love it.
Listen to this. He says, I say, if your knees aren't green by the end of the day, you ought to seriously re-examine your life.
That's nice.
Isn't that nice?
And your knees could be green from being in the garden.
That's what the point is.
Yes,
isn't it?
right.
Isn't
Yes,
that the
or it
point
could
of
be
this?
green. Yeah, okay.
From
yeah.
rolling where? On a turf? What? I thought that, okay, you're taking it apart.
I'm sorry. It's a very good, it's beautiful inspiration. I love that.
Aren't green. See, now that you say it, yeah, I get it. What are you, kneeling in the actual lettuce? Okay.
Lettuce knees. If you don't have lettuce knees, by the end of the day, you need to re-examine your life.
Well.
Okay, friends, you've done it. We've done it. You've reached the end of another episode of Upside Down Tulips. And now's the time when we say, General, thanks for listening.
We are Edith Weiss and
Christy Montour Larson.
thanks to our garden party.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And thank you so much to Denise Gentilini for composing and performing the Upside Down Tulips theme song.
You want to know more about her, go to denisegentilini.com, or you can find that link at upsidedowntulips.com.
A special thanks to the many talents of Leslie O'Carroll as
And-
Phoebe.
And to the many talents of our excellent yet enigmatic engineer.
And join us in January for an episode all about winter sowing, starting your 2025 garden. We hope that episode will delight and amaze you as much as this one did.
And don't forget, if you make a mistake,
Your garden will forgive you.
Upside down tulips.
yeah.
And Edith, I have a surprise for you.
What is my supplies?
I forgot to show you.
What?
Now, I don't do this on purpose, but I left a bunch of tomatoes again up in the attic.
Oh my gosh.
So here's your supplies to look at. Tomatoes that have been in the attic since
last year. Oh, Jesus. Let me see. Oh, man. They're so close to those sun-dried, except they're rotten. You know? They're just rotten. Christy.
I don't do it on purpose, but I forget.
That's okay.
Supplies.
Supplies forgiven, all forgiven.